I'm live. Hi, everyone. Vidette Mayer here. Welcome to today. I have some good information for you today, and this is an extension of yesterday's daily in, which went into really this calibration phase of from the last, really from the last year, I think, but the last 40 days of purging that we've had, moving into the solstice, where we had even higher influxes of light that flooded in to seal up all of that work that we've done. Okay, so if you haven't watched yesterday's daily tune in, go ahead and watch that. But I wanted to show you, we've got some activity on the Schumann resonance. I posted about this just a little bit ago on Instagram, but I want to show you a little bit about what's happening because it really ties into what we're going to talk about today. Today's going to be a little bit more heady. I wanted to bring some information. I did some research because I wanted to go further into the message from yesterday and really bring more depth to this information so it sinks in. When it sinks in with information, the brain and the subconscious mind kind of grasp onto the fact that there's some scientific information in there, and will be more willing to change and transform into the unknown and allow these changes to happen within you and be more of a willing participant. But I wanted to show you, if you can see here, you see all of this. This is like the regular kind of normal photonic light that's been coming in. I say regular because these are high energy, but the big influxes aren't showing on here. We've had some massive solar flares that have erupted. We have another coronal mass injection that's supposed to hit us today. But these are the higher frequencies of light than we've ever experienced before. And I've mentioned a couple daily tune-ins ago that those frequencies are so different than we've ever had before. I don't believe that the Schumann resonance can measure them because they're not the normal, so to speak, higher photonic light that we typically get. So what's being shown here, I believe, is the normal higher intensities, but you can see that they're in the lower vibrational densities of our physical form. The quieter spots are here in the fourth dimensional, the energetic, the higher dimensions of us, the energetics, and all the way down here where there's nothing coming in right now from these normal intense energies. Nothing's coming in on the cellular level, these higher frequencies. So this is really disrupting any densities within you, in your body, in your emotional, the denser parts of you, anything that you're fearing, anything that you're kind of resisting, in the global world as well. That stuff's kind of the things that are being disrupted right now. So again, some more discomfort in the physical sense of you and our world is now being really disrupted. So what does that mean? We were talking yesterday about these higher frequencies that aren't registering on the Schumann, but they are rather intense. For those of us who are more sensitive to the energies, more in tune with them, we can really feel these. We can also feel a lot of changes in our bodies. I got a message from someone who said her head is like so under pressure, and she was grateful for the message yesterday because she's like, it makes sense. And I too have that same experience a lot of times at night. I can feel, it's not a headache, it's just a lot of pressure, but it's really in alignment with what is happening with this recalibration. Because what's happening now after the solstice and for the next 2 weeks or so, depending, it's not always like exact weeks. It could be give or take a week, give or take a few days. But in these next couple of weeks, our spiritual centers are going to be recalibrating. So that's some of the research that I did. I want to go into this, and I'm going to just kind of, fire hose you with some information, and you can go back and listen to this because it's all going to come back around at the end here. So you'll understand what's happening on a spiritual level, as well as on a more physiological level as well. Hey, I'm glad you made it, Jay. And Nicole, you're welcome. Yeah, I was putting MD as in the description. MD means the multidimensional self. We're going to come back to that at the end. I'm going to explain that. But it's the integration of all parts of us in physical form. We aren't just a physical being. We have the soul, spiritual being, we have the energetic being, and then we have the physical being. And in most cases in everyday life, we have been taught through our collective programming, through basically through our programming, through the systems that we operate in, that we identify more with the physical parts of life, the material feeling parts that we can feel, and that has disconnected us then from the energetic and the spiritual self, which again I'm going to come back to at the end of this daily tune-in. But first, I want to talk about the spiritual centers and what's all happening right now. So what's happening is the pineal gland is recalibrating with these higher frequencies. The pineal gland, you may already know, but I took some notes just to help understand what all of these parts are and what their spiritual corresponding part are. The pineal gland is the inner eye. It physically, I didn't know this, it physically receives the highest portion of blood flow in the body than anything else, even the vital organs. So there's a reason for that, right? It receives the most amount of physical energy than anything else. But we also know spiritually, the pineal gland is where our intuition lies. That is the connection to those higher dimensional realities, our higher selves. So that's where the spiritual center of us is. The pineal gland is in that area. That is the third eye is where we receive our messages. Okay. It also, on the physical sense, controls the circadian rhythms of our body. And this is how we perceive, again, like I said, the higher dimensions. So there's the physicality part of it, and then there's the spiritual part of it. So then the other piece of the intuitive gland is also a part of this, our spiritual center. Did I say intuitive? I meant the pituitary gland is also part of this, our spiritual centers in the brain. So this is considered the mother gland. This is one was really sweet to me to research a little bit more. And I'm going to call her she. I don't know if it's, whatever. I'm going to call her she because she's a mother gland. She basically is the leader of the endocrine system. And she's the connector of the physical body and the spiritual body. What is required, whatever is required of the physical body, this gland, the pituitary gland, releases the hormones that the body is requiring in order for us to be in optimal health. If we're out of optimal health and we are in fight or flight mode, most humans are, because they're in fear mode, right? And hypnotized by all the messages and all the stuff. So the pituitary gland typically becomes imbalanced and throws out hormones, in all different ways that aren't in balance with our body. So all of that is being recalibrated. The hypothalamus gland is the part that regulates the pituitary gland and is the bridge between the endocrine system and the nervous system. It is the leader of the emotional part of us, the emotional system. So it's the piece that's kind of like, hey, this is going on in the body. The body's feeling this energetically. So, and sends the message up to the pituitary gland, and then she takes care of it through hormones and calms us down when it's completely, in balance. But again, our culture and our systems keep us in a constant flow of fear and chaos. So the body is all in chaos and the body is all out of balance. So what has happened with all of these energies over these past few months, and especially these last 40 days, is we are being just bombarded with these higher energies, which is raising our frequency that is calibrating us into the highest optimal way of function spiritually, energetically, and physically. So all of a sudden in these next 2 weeks, that's why we have to just allow ourselves to be quiet and be restful so all of this can go on. So we're going to be tired. We're going to be a little bit exhausted because there's so much going on. The last part of this is the ganglionic center, which is in the back of the base of the skull, is the aggregation point of the 12 nerve centers and aligning with the 12 spiritual power centers. So the 12 spiritual power centers in our body, the power center of faith is in the center of the brain, in the pineal, right? Faith is what connects us to that higher power, the creative power, whatever name you give it. It doesn't matter to me. I mean, I have my own names, but I want you to have your own names. But that is the part that connects us to higher consciousness and how we communicate with that higher consciousness and how we're guided by that higher consciousness. Okay, then we have the power of strength, which is in the loins, which is in the loin area. Judgment or discernment is in the pit of our stomach, right? When you get a gut feeling, you're like, that is the power point of discernment. And then again, remember, this is all in the nerve centers in the ganglionic center. This is what's controlling all of this. Or I hate the word control because I don't want to be controlled, but it's leading and guiding all of it. Love is in the back of the heart space, right? So when I do hypnotherapy sessions, a lot of times we connect into that heart space, into that love center. Power is at the root of the tongue. I thought that was interesting. But again, if you speaking your truth and speaking your power comes from your voice and how you communicate yourself and how you communicate the strength that comes from the loins and comes up and down this power center all through your body. Imagination is between your eyes, right? The third eye. Imagine what it would be like. Imagine comes from your third eye. Imagination is the pulling in and the remembrances of what is meant for you to remember, which is the ideas that you get. They're simply just remembrance. It's not stuff you make up. Ideas are remembrances of a part of you that is now wanting to come forth and express itself in a higher expression. Understanding is in the front of the brain. Will is in the center of the front brain. Order is in the navel. Remember, think about your chakras. I could go into this, and I actually might. I'm going to go into these a little bit more, probably more on social media, on Instagram and Telegram. Zeal is in the back of the head and in the medulla. Renunciation is in the abdominal region. And then the life conserver, again, I'm going to go into these a little bit more because they were really interesting to me, is the generative function of us. So there's all of this stuff in the ganglionic center, the hypothalamus, the pituitary gland, and the pineal gland. All of this is being reset and recalibrated. So there's a lot that's happening. What is going to become more obvious and more tangible now, because a lot of this has been happening energetically within us. And as these energies have been coming in and resetting us, there's going to be more of a split now in two realities. We're going to start to see two realities unfolding in our world, in your world, and collectively. Again, I just posted on this on Instagram and Telegram. The two realities are going to be very different, and there's going to be one reality that's more egos. These are the people that are still very much attached to the third dimensional world, the physical world, the physicality of things. These are the people. I mean, I'm not. This isn't a judgment thing, because I was there. I've been there. I've lived majority of my life very much attached to the physical world, but having this sense that there's so much more. But living in the systematized world that we've been given, and in the beliefs and the kind of understanding about what makes a life, and you build wealth in homes and materialistic things and jobs, and you do all the things, right? But as this is happening, in that world, these people are still getting these high frequencies, right? And they're still very much having all of this recalibration going in their spiritual centers. But because there's been so much disconnect, because in the physical reality, you can't really operate so in a soul level based on what the collective has designed and created for us to stay in a repeated cycle of, fearing of losing things. So you keep going, and then you keep going, and you keep going, and you lose, then you just get so tired, and you get depressed, and you get stressed out, and you get worried, so that you cut off your emotions. So I made this actually, so it doesn't leak through. So this is kind of what, this 3D reality is all about. So the people that are down here in physical expression, the expansion of this physical world is their only world, expanding the material possessions, expanding their success in their jobs, expanding, running around and buying a million things for Christmas, and all the stuff. And it doesn't make it wrong. It just makes it so identified with the physical that what happens is it becomes so overwhelming emotionally that most of these people shut down the emotions, shut down that heart center, that love center. And when this shuts down, this is the portal between the spiritual and the physical. So if this is shut down, this then completely closes this person off from the soul. So this life becomes soulless and just becomes a repeated effort to keep going and expanding this physical world. And the more it expands, the smaller this gets, right? The smaller and quieter the soul gets. And this physical world expands and expands and expands. And yet this person gets less and less fulfilled, gets less, gets more depressed because they are not expressing the soul. They are depressing this so that they don't feel the pain of not living this soul life. And they just keep repeating this, saying, I got to get there. I got to get there. I got to get there. I got to get the bigger house. I got to get the more things. I got to get the bigger cars. I got to get all the things, right? So it's this constant chaos. These people who are unaware of this massive recalibration that's going on, the recalibration is bringing this into higher light, into more light. This is going to become painful. Because if you've been on this journey and you have been in this physical world, started to ascend higher and higher into the fourth dimensional. This is the 4D. The emotional self is the fourth dimensional part of you. This is the fifth dimensional part of you. We are going into a fifth dimensional experience of a frequency of life, which means we are going to be more in a soul-led life than a physical life. But these people who haven't gotten the memo yet, and they're still like, yeah, trying to do this, this is coming alive. They're getting notifications, so because these energies are not allowing them to be quiet anymore, and they're waking up to more of the stuff that is no longer truthful to them. And if you've been on this journey and you've been on that kind of if you've been on this journey, you've kind of been able to do it step by step, and you see a truth and you're like, and you heal it and you purge it. Okay, I'm through that. I've purged that part of this density, right? Then you keep going on your journey and you see another truth and you're like, oh, this person really isn't that good for me. Okay, I've got to go through that process of purging that person or putting up a boundary, and kind of getting through that. So, we've had a gradual awakening, right? Of getting to these people here are coming into like a whole tidal wave of truth, right? Whether they see it on the outside, whether it's in their own life. So these people in reality one, they're going to have some pain. They're going to have pain because now the emotions are not, these higher frequencies are erupting these emotions now because the soul's saying, this is how it really works. This is what your truthful journey is. And the emotions turn on, and this person now feels the pain of this life that they've created that is most likely not in alignment with their soul. And so this is going to be some painful steps for them. Then we have so patience and empathy, that has to be kind of, our call to action. But then we have those who are integrated. Okay, this is where the multidimensional self comes in. This is what it looks like. When we live a multidimensional life, we live from the soul. the soul is our consciousness. So the more we expand, the more we come into the truth of this, then the more the energetics of us expand. We expand into those higher frequencies of love and joy and creativity and imagination and courage and willingness to keep moving forward, right? And then as this expands, then the physical world expands into all of the manifestations that represent and are expressed by the soul. So have a more expressive and more truthful expression of our lives because it's created from soul. So as our soul expresses our energy or our well-being, our emotional well-being rises, our physical world then rises, and as it rises, we're like, whoa, this is so fun. And that feeds the energetic self of us and comes back to soul, expands the soul, and then we expand energetically, and then that becomes the electromagnetic field that creates the energetic field that expands the physical world. So it's a completely different expression of life. So by coming into and allowing all of this recalibration to come in and being aware of this process, we can now know that the soul is just getting all of our spiritual centers recalibrated and rejuvenated and back online, because we have become in this physical reality, we've become a fragmented expression. We have these fragmented, like, here's my job, and then I come home and now I'm a parent, and then I put the kids to bed. Now I'm just going to sit and veg out to TV or a screen, and then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to go to church on Sundays and be spiritual, and then I'm going to come over here and go out with friends and have my social life, and then I'm going to clean the house, and this is where my this is. So we're all fragmented in this aspect of life. All of it, the soul is a reflection. Our work becomes our life, not because we have to, but my work with you guys is not work. This is fun for me. So the work becomes like, an integration of all of those fragmented parts. So as we come into this calibration phase, all of these fragmented parts are shedding. And that is, if we've been on this journey, there's not as much for us to shed, right? We still have some things and they'll feel kind of yucky, but we know what we're doing. We know to sit through. We know this too shall pass, and we allow it to pass, and then we rise up. But for those who are not aware of this journey, who have been avoiding this journey, all of those fragmented parts all at once are going to start being like, shoo, 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 and that's going to be very painful. So that is where we come in. This is where those in reality too, in that integrated space, can nurture and support these people who are in pain. Maybe we've tried to bring them along on this journey, for years, but they were like, oh no, you're crazy, you're weird, and this is how life is. But now they're going to realize that this isn't how life is. This is going to be a process. But that's when we get to step up and support these people. And if they don't want our support and they do it on their own, that's their own discernment. That's their own way of being. That's their own choice. But we have to know, y'all, this is going to be a truth that maybe you don't want to hear, but there are going to be many who cannot handle this calibration, cannot handle seeing the truth in life. And they have been, so dedicated to this physical life that when it just kind of crumbles or they start seeing more and more, we're going to have more people that are checking out in a lot of different ways. So we've got to be able to handle and support ourselves in watching other people's choices and how they come along in their journey, whether they go on the healing themselves with support or they just decide to check out in whatever way that expresses for them. It's all part of the soul contract, is all the divine plan. And we have to know that that is the divine plan, and we have to support it no matter what that means. But all in all, it comes back to each individual self, each of us, to just know what's happening. So in these next couple of weeks, take care of yourself. Allow yourself to recalibrate. Do not be afraid. Know what is happening. Know that we are being forced into, my phone's freaking out. know that we are being forced into a higher expression of life, and we are all, the whole planet is being moved into this integrated space. But some people aren't ready for it, and they're not going to want to, they don't want to go. They're going to hang on to this life, and eventually that life will catch up with them. Okay, we've got all kinds of cool stuff coming in. Let's see what everybody's saying. Hey, I'm live. I don't know what that person is saying. Oh, it's that spammy crap. I don't know why people do that. Okay, how much pressure in the third eye over some days ago, knowing it's a good thing. Yeah. And any kind of stuff, if there's chronic things, like don't ignore it, like don't just take this and be like, well, it's ascension. So, just this is where discernment comes in. Like I can sit with something and be and just know, but I know my body and yours. So if there's anything that's too chronic, it's going on for a long time, then obviously don't ignore it. My hormones have been off for a while, causing my nervous system to give me anxiety attacks for no apparent reason. Okay. There's a sacred number 12. Yep. I'm glad being tired is considered on point. I've been, feeling so guilty for not working and doing spiritual work with people. Too tired and completely broke. Completely broke is like, I think part of this process, because that's where we tune into that faithful place. I'm pretty, I don't know, like I'm pretty convinced of it. I think we have to go to the bottom levels of all of those fragmented parts so that we live the contrast. We have to be able to know the contrast of being broke. So when the opposite expression comes in, we can find that balance in between. We have to be unhealthy in order to know health. It's the cause and effect. It's the polarity of everything. So if you're going down into the deepest depths of any and all parts of your life, I've been there, and I'm there in some parts of it. And what I have come to know is like, oh, now I see that I had to go there. I had to be in that crappy ass marriage that like about me trying to save it. So finally, when I got to the point where I was like, I can't save this, it's too painful trying to save it, I let it go. And now I've got the opposite expression of the marriage. And had I not had this, I wouldn't appreciate my husband sitting in there. And we have been through some crap this year. And through that crap, we have become stronger. And to me, I've learned so much about partnership and marriage, because when things got really hard over here, like we just fell apart. Like we grew apart. Whereas the opposite expression now it has brought us so much more like strength together that we have to be in both aspects. So don't fear the worst. Keep the faith. The faith is what keeps us from crashing and burning, right? We kind of have to come almost down to crashing before the faith part of us then picks us up and takes us into a higher level of expression. That's been my honest to goodness experience in all aspects. I'm glad being okay. Freaking fantastic explanation. Thanks, Trish. And thank you. You've helped flush this out, like just from our conversations and from the wealth conversation last night in the Ascension Bank. I was able to put some of this together. So you're a part of this co-creative message. So thank you. I've been feeling so much amazing changes the past few days, overwhelmed with feelings of bliss and love. Truly incredible. Isn't that the best? Where you're like, oh my God, my heart, oh God, it hurts. And then you're like, wait a minute, it hurts because I'm so grateful right now. Like that's the best feeling ever. So that's a great experience. I'm happy for you, Jessica. That's fun. And I've also noticed my typical pains are disappearing and replaced with warm, fuzzy feelings. Thank you. That reminds me. That's another thing too that came up to share with you as well. As we go, we've all been through a lot of ascension symptoms over the course of this past year, aches and pains and all the things as everything has purged. Now, for those who are in this, in the more in the fourth dimensional, rising up into the fifth dimensional expressions of life, that's going to start to ease off. And we will start to then have the opposite expression where we'll have more of those joyful moments and have more the pain that's associated with like the gratitude and our heart spilling over. We might cry more, leak a little bit. as our, love and joy kind of overflow and express themselves more. Spirit duality is what I call it. Yeah. Um, yeah, so that thank you all for your participation. I really appreciate it. It's so fun to sit here and go through your experiences as well. So hopefully that helps. I know this is a little bit longer of a daily tune in, but I want to not always have it be real energetic things, because sometimes it's like, well, how does that look in physical life? Because we are still physical beings and we're still having this physical experience. But that's how it's going to start showing up. We're going to really start to see a distinctive shift in realities where, like, all of a sudden things aren't in this 3D reality, aren't touching you. You're seeing it, but it's not affecting you like it used to be. And this is where these, the how we support those who are still over here by just being over here. And they'll say, well, how is this not bothering you? And however that comes, how that conversation comes forth, that's how the support opens up. That's how we're inviting these people to come on this journey. We're showing them how we are in joy and gratitude and love. And we've been through some messy times. We've been through some painful times. And now we're in this place, and we can invite them and say, you know what? Yeah, you got to go through some pain, but you're not, it's not going to take you further than you can handle. Let me help you. Let me help you through these. And we start to pull these people out of that 3D material world identification into the courage and willingness to start walking the path. And we just simply pull them along by being in our higher frequency and our higher expression of life, and show them that there is a different way, and there is we can trust our path, and we can trust that soul level. We don't have to coach them. We don't have to pull them along. We don't have to tell them they're wrong. We don't have to tell them, we just do it ourselves. Okay. So grateful. Thank you for these forecasts. Thanks for being here. Yes, being part of 3D much anymore. Yes, not being part. Yeah. The 3D world is, it's always going to be a part of us, but we don't have to live within the paradigms that we've been given. We are creating a new paradigm, and that's been a conversation on these daily tune-ins for a couple weeks now. So enjoy today, enjoy these next 2 weeks, which means be in joy. Whatever's going to bring you joy, follow the thread of joy. What's going to bring you peace, what's going to bring you harmony. If you have to say no to something because it's just going to invite chaos and frustration, you say no to it. This is where you practice your boundaries. Take care of yourself. Allow yourself to say no, or allow yourself to say yes if it feels selfish. This is where it's okay to be selfish, because you have to take care of yourself and allow all of this calibration to go and do its work and balance you out and bring you into pure optimal health in all ways, in multidimensional ways, so that you are this beacon of light starting this new year. And we can start to help those in the 3D, because this 3D world is going to get chaotic, because it's got to get real obvious and it's got to get real painful for many people to really start to see things. And that's when the fear and all of it will erupt. And that's where we come in to support them. Okay. Thank you so much. My mom's name is Joy. She's a lucky lady. Hopefully she lives in joy. I'm sure she does. All right, y'all. Thanks so much. Please share this. This is a message that needs to be out. So if you could just make sure you hit like on this and hit share, and help people tune into this message so that they know what's happening and they can trust this process. Love to you all. Mwah. Bye.